I truly played this game for the respect of my peers and the respect of those who played before me. That's why I love pass rushing, man. It's a science. It's a violent, beautiful science. Played in the Super Bowl with a broken foot, and I was pissed. I was trying to play in the NFC Championship game my last year, and Ron wasn't having it. Yeah. So I went out there pregame warm-up, full on. I was doing ladder drills, sprinting, running, and then Glazer's over there texting like, "Hey, Jared Allen's pretty good on the field."
I love that shit.
Ron was like, "You need to sit your ass down."
Right as I started to interview you, my wife started power washing the bird shit off our barn right outside. I was like, "Hey, I am interviewing one of my favorite players of all time in 5 minutes, babe." Welcome to the Greenlight Podcast presented by BetMGM. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code Greenlight and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code Greenlight. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. If that bet loses, you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Just make sure you use bonus code Greenlight when you sign up. All right, this is a treat for me. He's one of my favorite players from the time I played in the league, and now a Hall of Famer, deservedly so. I'm surprised it took this long. Jared Allen joins the show. How you doing, Jared?
Oh, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. I got that. The long family gets whatever they want out of me. I'm a big fan of the family.
Well, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. And you play with my brother, Kyle.
I did. I played with him for a stint. I grew up watching your dad as a Bay Area Raiders fan, right? And then, no joke, I randomly ran into your mom. It's probably been a year or so. I think we were at the airport, and she was like, "Jared," and I was like, "Oh,
that's
hey."
hilarious, dude. That's funny, man.
Small world. The longs are everywhere, but it was. You guys have a great football family, so it was fun time to spend time with your little brother. Obviously, you got to play in the league against you, or obviously not the same position, so not physically against you, but it's a real treat.
Well, dude, thanks again for coming on, and we're talking about the Hall of Fame. That's why I figured it'd be a good time to book you. You doing some media, and you were a finalist like 4 or 5 times, and for me, I was surprised by that weight. But I know how some guys, they kind of hang on every year, and they seem to get discouraged when they don't get in. Even if I know they're getting in down the line, like for you, was it discouraging at any point, or was it a thing where you like, hey, eventually it'll be fine?
Yeah, yes and no, right? I never played this game to try to be a Hall of Famer, right? The Hall of Fame was just a byproduct of just trying to be the best defensive end, and so I always laugh because I'm like, for 49 weeks, I could care less about the Hall, and I was a first ballot finalist. I had no expectation of going in on with. With Wood, it was me, Woodson, Peyton, Megatron. We were the 4, first ballot finalists of that 2021 class, and or 2020, 2021 class, and so, after that, you're like, okay, first ballot finalists with that, that's an insane class right there. And 3 of those guys went in first ballot. So you think you're going to go in the next year, right? And then so that kind of doesn't happen. So you're like, okay, you listen to what everybody kind of says in those 3 weeks, build up to it. But other than that, I'm usually busy, man. I'm probably like greasy now. I'm chasing kids around, cutting grass,
cutting grass,
in the
dude.
farm.
Cutting
I
grass.
got horses. I got chickens. I got orchard attending to. Yeah. Like we're busy. So I really don't think about it. And then again, it kind of starts. You're like, all right, I'm going to get in this year, and then when that doesn't happen, so I would say probably that 3rd, 4th year, because I went in on my 5th time, and I was a finalist every time, since I was eligible. That's when it starts getting frustrated, because you're frustrated because you're comparing yourself to guys that you're fans of, right? And then you're like, you're hearing one thing. Well, if this guy represented you better, if this happened, so there's no real clear metric, right? It's just kind of like, well, one year they might decide we're going to clear the log jams, or Bryant Young was eligible for many years, jumped into the finals, went in right away once he made it to the finals, right?
Yeah.
So you never know what the selectors and the voters are looking for that year, and so that's the frustrating part. It's never the players. It's never. I mean, because I would argue everybody that's in those final 10. I know it's a final 15, but then I think now they cut to like a final 7. I
Yeah.
mean, anybody that's in those final 15, final 10, final 7. I mean, they're all deserving. I mean, you're splitting hairs with insanely great players, right? So that's the frustrating part is the process. There's not a whole lot of transparency when you're going through it, right? And so, that's why I say it's a yes and no answer. You're kind of like, all right, and I remember one year, like my fourth year, actually, I got in on my fifth. My fourth year, I just told him, I was like, listen, just don't play these games with me, right? Either I'm a Hall of Famer or I'm not. Like, and I'm okay if you tell me I'm not. If you tell me, hey, Jared, you're only going to be a finalist, I'm cool. Take me off the list, clear the path for someone else, right? And so that's the part where because you're playing these games, and Eric Allen put it the best. He's like, you start getting it's your competitive nature, but you're being competitive about something you have zero control over. Can't change the stats,
Yes.
have no control. And then I refuse to kiss the ring. I refuse to politic. I refuse to do all that. I'm like, if I can't get in on my own accord, if my career doesn't speak for itself, that's okay too. I'm one of those few people that have zero regrets, zero anything with my career. I was never cut. Every time I left a team, is the team I asked to be traded, and I got traded to the team I wanted to go to. So,
Yeah.
I had no regrets, and so that was kind of the mindset I took it. And then, the years I didn't make it, you're pissed off for a couple of days, and then you start realizing like, I'm pissed because I'm pissed. Like, why am I even pissed? This is dumb. I got no control over this.
Yeah.
Go back to life. So that's kind of like that's that the ebb and flow you fall into, which I think that's what actually makes you the most pissed off. Is like, why do I care?
Yeah.
I mean, because it's an insanely good honor. Like, don't get me wrong, it's the pinnacle of individual achievement for our sport, right? But you have zero control over it. It's the most surreal thing because it's one of the highest honors that you want to be able to compete for. But it's like I competed for it way back here when it wasn't even on my mind, and now it's just one of those measurements of how you stand the test of time. And so, now that we're in, it's fantastic. And Chris Carter was so right. Chris Carter told me, he was like, man, once you're in, all the nonsense goes away, right? He's like, because you stop thinking about that. Nobody at the hall, and what makes the hall great is the Hall of Famers. It's the people, right? And it's getting there, sitting there, dude. I was talking to Mean Joe Greene. I'm like, freaking Mean Joe Greene, are you kidding me? Like, I'm like, this is dope. And then you hear guys, no one's like, oh, how long did it take? Or no one cares how long it took you to get there, right? And and guys are constantly giving affirmation about, man, you should have been here, you should have been this. But that was the coolest part is the respect level. You're sitting there looking at guys that you're like, my goodness, these are like guys that were generational players, right?
That's right.
And I don't know if you're like me, but I never thought of myself in that way while I was playing, because I was constantly trying to find out all the negative stuff that I needed to fix, right? I'm constantly looking at my mistakes. How did I miss? How do I get better? How do I outdo myself from the year before? That you don't really let yourself enjoy the success that you're having. And so when you're sitting there and you're like, dang, like, oh my goodness, like, dude, Keller Winslow Sr. Like, are you kidding me? It's Keller Winslow Sr. Or, Steve Largent. I had lunch with Steve Largent. I'm like, this is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
So that is the ultimate best part about the hall. And that's my long-winded answer to tell you, yes, it's frustrating at times, but not for the reasons, because it's not it for me, at least. It wasn't because I needed that as a recognition piece. It was frustration with the process. And then that all fades, and now you really get to enjoy what the hall is all about. And for me, the hall is about the people. The gold jacket, the accolade is fantastic, and I will represent it to the best of my ability. But it's about the people that I get to share those moments with, and kind of sit there and listen, and then just listen to, Richard Dent talk. You listen to Shannon Sharp talk. Listen to Irving talk. These guys, Coach Vermeil. I mean, you're just like, my goodness, this is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, that's the thing my dad always talks about. Getting to go every year, and you could think of it as like something you got to do, or you got to fly. He's in Montana every summer, and he always leaves like clockwork to go to Canton for the weekend. And Montana's his favorite place in the world, but that's the one place he would leave to go, and it's not about anything but the people. It's, you mentioned Joe Greene. My dad, I was like my dad's hero, and then he's standing up on the stage with him. And you kind of answered my next question, which was going to be, who was the guy you were most excited to stand on the stage with? But it sounded like you rattled off 4 or 5 with ease.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, you literally, because I think there was 107 or 111 that came back.
Yeah.
We almost had the highest attendance record, which was great. And I think for me, the most of goodness, Thurman Thomas was another big one because I grew up. So I was weird. I grew up a Bills and a Raiders fan,
Which
right?
is wild.
Which is completely wild. I was a Raiders fan because I grew up poor. And
Yeah.
all my rich friends were Niners fans, so I just had to be there. Right?
Yeah.
It fit my MO.
It's like a Mets Yankees thing.
Yeah, and then so I had a buddy. It was my Pop Warner coach. His brother, one of his relatives, was a Bills fan.
Yeah.
And I was over there a lot, so we were constantly watching Bills games, and then obviously just how great they were and dominant they were, and especially from the defensive standpoint with Bruce Smith. I mean, Bryce Pop. I mean, Cornelius Bennett. The list goes on and on and on. Steve Tasker, one of my all-time favorite players ever. And so that's how I grew up with those guys, and so seeing those guys, you're like, this is so cool. But yeah, those like I said, it's kind of one of those things you could turn every corner and you're like, wow. And for me, it's the older garb, right? Because obviously, I got to know Marcus Allen and guys like that kind of over the year being at different events. For me, getting to go back and see some of the older guys that maybe aren't going to as many events or doing it, but the one thing they do is come to Canton. Was pretty cool. And I'll be honest, one of the most powerful things for the weekend for me was meeting the widows. So they do a good job of bringing the widows back, as you probably know, every year. And meeting them and hearing the stories of their husbands, of guys that obviously I didn't get to meet, was pretty cool. And I just thought it was special that they really kept the family in the loop as part of the hall and really kept their spirit alive there. And so that was a pretty special moment because it's humbling, right? It's humbling to see kids come back, after their dad's passed, wives come back after their husband's passed, and still want to share that moment and and be a part of the events.
I think you and I have, and this is in my research for this interview. I think you and I have we share a hero in Jack Youngblood.
Yes.
Jack was pretty present when I was in St. Louis, and we didn't do a lot of winning. So it was cool when guys came back, and Jack would come back, and you could tell he gave a shit. He cared about the guys that were playing with the horns on their helmet at that point, and he gave me a lot of encouragement. I still save a picture of me and him before the game at the coin toss, and he sent me a picture in his shop with the picture of me and him up on the wall, and that made my for everything that I could have done, that relationship with Jack when I was in St. Louis meant a great deal. And I heard he emailed you and said, "Hey man, I love your game. You play it the right way." What did that mean to hear it from Jack?
Oh,
why is Jack so important?
Man, that was huge. So you came in 08, and so I think it was that season, but the 09 no, sorry, it was the 09 season because we just lost to the Saints and they had the Pro Bowl in Miami. And I think that was one of the first years they did like the NFL honors, right? And so I got either pass rusher or defensive lineman of the year, and they said I could have anybody I want present me with the award, right? And I was like, oh, dude, I'm going Jack Youngblood. You know what I mean? And I was like, he was an absolute monster. Always a fan. I used to watch 100 Toughest Men before every high school game. He was that guy. And so I told the league that they got him to present this. So I got to spend a few hours with him that evening. I got to meet Deacon Jones that night. Deacon Jones
he's
was my
a
name,
piece
which
of
was
work.
like,
He was a piece
which
of
was
work.
like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest. And so that was super awesome. But yeah, there was I got 2 emails from him. I just ran out one day. I never forget. I opened up Jack Youngblood, right? And just that simply said, like, hey, I just want to let you know you're playing the game right. Right? And then another one, same thing, like, hey, keep going, we're watching. I'm like, we're watching.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Where are you at?
He's in his garage with a beer watching you rush the passer, man.
And so, for me, I truly played this game for the respect of my peers and the respect of those who played before me. The opinions of the people that played this game are the only thing that ever mattered to me. And so for a guy like that, to pat you on the back. And I mean, you obviously have a much better relationship than I ever had with him, but I mean, that was worth more than the All Pro I could ever have. Honestly, it was it was such a cool moment, and I've had those moments with like Neil Smith, your dad, another one. You know, I mean, obviously he's in the media, so your dad is more in tune and talking. But you know, a couple times early in my career when I got to spend a couple minutes with him and be a fan, right? And hear what he's had to say. Like those were the moments throughout my career that I'll never forget. I wish I would have got to spend more time with Doleman. You know, when he passed, him and I were just starting to kind of building our relationship. But having him there when I broke that 22 his single season sack record of 21 with the Vikings was massive because like those were those moments where you're appreciating each other's greatness, right? And it was humbling for me to see him there. And so I wish I got to spend more time with him. But yeah, those are the cool moments. And Jack Youngblood is one that really kicked it off for me. And again, just he wasn't there this weekend or that weekend. But man, what an impact he had with very few words on my life and my how I view my career.
Well, when you used to play through something, and everybody plays through something, and which is what makes your career and Hall of Famers like you amazing, is the consistency to not get knocked down by whatever it is you were dealing with year to year. You always look back, and I used to think like, well, what would Jack Youngblood do? And it was
Papa Cup last week, get his ass out there.
Yeah, he would.
I mean, that's why I played in the Super Bowl with a broken foot, and I was pissed. Yeah. I was trying to play in the NFC Championship game my last year, and Ron wasn't having it, right? And I was like, Ron, and there was no offense to the kid we're bringing out of practice squad, but I'm like, 70% of me is better than him, and I'm like, so Ron was so pissed. So I went out there in pregame warmups because he'd already told everybody I wasn't going out there. Yeah. So I went out there in pregame warmup full on. I was doing ladder drills, sprinting, running, and then Glazer's over there texting like, "Hey, Jared Allen's pretty good on the field."
I love that shit.
Ron was like, "You need to sit your ass down." So that's just what I always felt. I'm like, if I can piece myself together, because I have a high, obviously most football players have a high pain threshold. But that's the confidence you got to have in yourself to be great. You got to think that if I give my team the best chance to win by being out there. Yeah. And you got to know those boundaries, right? You can't be out there with an arm falling off. But I mean, at the same time, no sure words are spoken. If I can walk, if I can run, tape that crap up, and we'll deal with it later. Yeah, and that's kind of the mindset I took about it.
And it's almost like a high when the chips are down. You want to show who you are.
Absolutely.
You're like a pig in shit.
Yeah. Yeah, you're just wallowing it, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny, the perception. So after I had 22, right? So I tore my labrum the year I had 22 sacks. And then that following year, I didn't find out about it in time to do anything about it. I found out about it like week 1 or 2 that my labrum was shot. So I played the whole year with labrum just torn. I had 12 sacks that year, and people were like, "Oh, he needs to retire. He's trash." Okay. I guess 22 is the standard now, right?
Yeah,
which I get. So, but all of a sudden it comes out that I played the year with a torn labrum, and the entire narrative shifts, right? Like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this guy had 12 sacks with a torn labrum. I'm just like, what people don't understand. But like you said, it's kind of a badge of honor you wear to know, like, listen, I can still perform at a high level with crap wrong. And, that's what they're paying me to do. They're not paying me to take plays off, to take years off. I played in Chicago. I ruptured my L5 like 3 weeks before training camp. And they didn't really treat it. So I went home, rested it, rehabbed the best I could, and dealt with a ruptured L5 all year, caught pneumonia. No joke, I caught pneumonia, and I was trying to play against Green Bay. And Glaze, and obviously Glaze. Yeah. Glaze and my wife were like, no. And Glaze called my wife and was like, do not let him play. And they were talking, and I was trying to play. And he was like, Jared, I almost died because of pneumonia. Like,
yeah, Jay's always got a backstory.
So, I'm like, so they did, which probably was the right thing. But I mean, I lost 17 pounds in 3 weeks. God. And I was like, we went and played Carolina the following week after that, and I suited up at about 2:35, and
Mm-hmm. You were
and we went out there.
235 late in your
Oh, dude,
career.
I was skinny. No joke. Funny story. You can ask Kyle about it too. Uh, Peanut, right? I show up for the plane, and we had to wear a suit and tie. And my dress shirt is sitting here hanging like this because I just got nothing. I've been
Yeah.
literally, I think it was like 15 or 17 pounds. And I had the long hair, and he was like, "Bro, you look like Matthew McConaughey from
Dallas Buyers
Buyers Club."
Club.
So they started calling me DBC. That was my nickname the rest of the year, DBC.
No.
I'm just sitting
They
there
were
with the
frying
shirt
you.
down to here. Oh, my wife got a picture. I had a mask on, so I didn't get the kids sick. I had young kids at the time.
Yeah.
And I was in the basement for like 3 weeks. They gave me these horse pills to try to keep it, from spreading. And hindsight, I probably should have taken some time off, recovered, trained, got my muscle mass back. But dude, as soon as they said they cleared me to play, I was like, well, I can't. I was still lethargic. I was like hitting the pool. I was trying to swim laps, trying to do whatever I could to just get things back. But again, I felt if I could be on the field, I'm gonna help my team win. It may be wrong, maybe right. I don't know. I just in my own personal mind, I could never fathom shutting it down on something I felt I could play through.
How much does it, because I heard you say your why was 3 things, and 2 of them, and a lot you have said so far resonates with me, and obviously not being a Hall of Famer and that sort of thing, but what motivated you, the fear and the need for respect, that, and obviously the pursuit of greatness, that was the third one. But, when you talk to certain athletes, they're like, no, you shouldn't fear anything. But I was always terrified of failure.
Yeah.
And terrified of losing that respect in the building or in my D-line room. And I could tell that drove you, and hearing you talk about your relationship with fear and that fear of failure or whatever it might be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I say it, and the reason I chose fear because reverence didn't quite fit. Right? You know what I mean? Like, because it is a healthy fear. I think Garth Brooks mentioned one time, right? Like, courage isn't the absence of fear. I mean, it's the definition, right? But I think I heard it the first time from Garth Brooks. But
yeah, I was like, is
courage,
this a Garth Brooks quote for like originally?
Yeah. No, I heard it for the first time from Garth Brooks.
Yeah.
I think obviously this is just the definition of what.
Yeah.
But it's like courage is basically isn't the absence of fear.
Yes.
It's doing what's right or doing what you have to do in spite of fear. Like fear is that natural thing that keeps you alive, right?
Yeah.
But for me, that's what I say. It's a healthy fear. It's that fear. Like, I do not want to fail, right? I'm not afraid of failure because I'm going to learn from it. But at the same time, like you said, like, I do not want to fail. So I am going to prepare and do whatever I have to do to fail. And if I do fail, well, I'm sure as heck not going to let this be my story because I care. I do respect what I'm doing. I do want people to respect the effort that I put in. So I'm going to learn from that and I'm going to improve so I don't end up back here again. And so it's the same way. Like, nobody wanted to be that guy on film. That Monday morning.
Hell yeah.
Right? Nobody. I even after my 3rd, 4th, 5th Pro Bowl, I was like, not me. I'll never forget it. I played my very first game in Minnesota. I went out there. Monday Night Football, right? I'm new contract, knew everything. I was jacked out of my mind, and I played like dog piss. I took a cut block to my freaking quad. Like, first quarter was like, this is miserable. I'm trying everything to get through it, and I graded out like -5, right? Mm-hmm. And I wrote that on my wrist for the rest of my career. Like, never again. -5, never again. Yeah. And that's that battle with fear, right? Like, again, it's not a crippling fear. It's that fear, like you said, I never want to feel like this again. I never want to have this experience. I don't want to fail. So it is for me, it was that constantly, like I said earlier, I never allowed myself to sit there and enjoy the success I was having because I was constantly looking at what I was doing wrong and I had to fix because I was constantly trying to get better. My fear of ever being called a one-trick pony, right? I never, especially when I got my contract, it was like, okay, so you could be the guy who had a great year, gets paid, and then you're terrible, right? So what's your real motivation? And if it's greatness, right? And that fear of failure is what drove me. That fear of failure was that motivating factor to get up and be the first one in the gym, to be working out, to be training MMA, to be pushing yourself past the limits that most guys are in, because I didn't want to fail. And so, I when people say like, oh, I fear nothing, that's a cop out. Then I would argue you're not pushing yourself hard enough.
Yeah.
If you're not fearing something, then you're living very comfortable.
Yep.
And I tell people all the time, the difference between greatness and me probably getting cut is a very thin line.
Yeah.
If I take an inside move and I miss that tackle 6 times out of 10, they're probably going to cut me.
Yeah.
But you build up confidence, you understand the game, when you can make an inside move, when you can do certain things. And so, that line of greatness is you got to teeter on it, and it's got to be like, okay, if I miss this, I'm getting my butt chewed.
Yeah.
If I miss it too many times, I'm going to get cut. So there's a fear there too, but I'm trying to be great. So I gotta balance that, And so that was always a motivating factor. To me, it was what got me. Listen, okay, what else can I do? That was the back of my. What else can I do? And that's kind of what drove me. It's like, you hear it in fighters too. Like, if anybody's been in a fist fight, most people aren't just super calm. Like, oh, okay, it's that adrenaline, it's that fear. Like, I don't want to get punched in the face a whole bunch of times, so I'm going to whoop you before you whoop me.
Oh yeah, you don't want to be embarrassed. You don't want to be embarrassed. You don't want to get knocked out on a cell phone camera, which every fight is now broadcast on the internet.
I know.
So that's why we don't fight anymore. In 2011, man, and I talked about like, hey, when I was a rusher, and 2011 was probably my best year. I mean, it was statistically, and we were a 2-14 team, and I always took pride in the fact that like, hey, the chips were down, and I went and got buckets, and I played my ass off. And I'm watching you, and I'm thinking I'm doing something pretty cool, and you've got 22 that year. And I'm like, how the fuck is he doing this? And not to mention, y'all's team, I think, had 3 wins that year.
3-12, and unfortunately, we'd get some leads early, and then just go to crap. Things would just go to crap,
which makes it harder.
Yeah, which it really did.
So I don't know what came together for you.
I tell you, the only difference between that year and literally the following year I had 12, or the years I had 15, I didn't miss. Yeah. I can count 3 sacks I missed that entire year.
Yeah.
And normally I'll go back and as you'll miss 5 or 6, maybe sometimes even more.
Hell
right?
Yeah.
And you might win on rushes and the ball's already out, and you're like, oh my gosh, you smoked some dude, or it's always you win and someone's not in their gap, and they take off, a gap, and you're like, oh my goodness.
Always.
So it was one of those years where I wasn't missing, and then to be honest, you go back to what was motivated. I was trying to keep pace because Jason Babin went off that year.
He went off, dude. He had
out of nowhere. Like, where did he come from? Out of nowhere, he goes and gets 17. Ware had like 18.
Yeah.
So I go into that final game. I think I had 18 and a half, right? Yeah, I think I had 18 and a half. Ware was at 18. Babin was at like 17.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to keep this. I'm trying to get the sack. I'm trying to be the sack leader for the year.
Yeah.
I'm like, the record I wasn't even off my mind. I was just trying to make sure I got at least one or two, just so I could, stay ahead of those guys. And that was the big thing. It was one of those things I just wasn't missing. And I actually had 23 that year. They took one from me on Wednesday. And then I had one against Drew Brees. I hit him right as he threw, and they said the ball went forward. And so easily could have been 24. And but yeah, that was the difference. It just was one of those years where when you had the opportunity, I was hit. And then like I said, we had a couple times where we would jump out to a pretty big lead. And so believe it or not, our pass defense wasn't very good that year.
No.
so people were chucking the ball on us.
I'm sure you were defending 4-minute mode a solid bit too on a 3-win team, which always
makes
sense.
You know what pissed me off the most was the Chicago game, right when I got 22. I knew we got back. We intercept the ball, right? Go back and take the lead.
Yep.
And then I knew, I was like, all right, it was like a third and something, I couldn't remember. But anyways, they left. I saw them come in the tight end. I was like, oh, they're leaving me one-on-one with the tight end. This is gonna be great. Tight end was sitting back in the stance. So I jump out and do a 9, and I come off the ball and I slip and fall. And I was like, no, no. And I knew it. I was like, they're going to run the clock out now. They're
Yeah.
going to run the clock out now.
Yeah.
That was my last chance. And then Josh McCown went too. I'm chasing him out of bounds. All he has to do is step out of bounds. Nobody would say anyway. It would clearly, it would have been a no gain, 1 yard loss, would have been a sack. As he's stepping out of bounds, he just flicks it,
Oh.
I'm like, come on, Josh.
Well, dude, your memory's intact, bro. Because us football players remember everything, every little play, every little oh man, I remember sacks I missed 15 years ago, bro. So I'm glad to hear you're the same.
I remember the ones I miss more than the ones I make.
Yeah, that's right.
I think that goes back to that motivation of wanting to be great and that fear of failure, right? Because I think too many people rely on need a pat on the back, right? Too many people rely on the positive, and I'm not saying positive feedback is bad, obviously, but too many people need that. They need to be told how great they are.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't need that. I need to know where I'm making mistakes so I can be better.
Yep.
And that's just kind of always how I was.
I used to watch your long arm. I used to watch your bull slip moves, and just you had such a great bag. And I think what was so cool about you is everybody thought big, tall guy, he's got to have the longest arms. You had 32-inch arms, which is like a quiet secret that you didn't play like it. You found ways to be long as you were tall, if that makes sense. And I think also what I noticed watching you was because of your gait, you ate up ground. Once you won your rush, you closed really fast, and you were a good finisher. I thought you were one of the best guys at the top of the rush in the game.
Yeah.
So I wonder for you what your process was as you put your hand in the dirt. Were moves predetermined, or did you try to get to a spot and then based off of the tackle's body position or lean, you're going to make a determination in a split second?
Yeah, so we had Bob Carmelowitz was my first D-line coach in the NFL, and that dude was a master technician, right? So first and foremost was always alignment and then stance and start.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to take as much space as we can. So our whole philosophy in the beginning was, space is your enemy in the pass game, right?
That's right.
So I want to close hip cushion as fast as I can.
Yeah.
And then I have to make I have to beat the inside half. So what a lot of guys even today don't realize is the inside half is your biggest threat, right?
Yeah.
So many guys are worried about chopping or flipping around the outside, but if you don't stop his inside foot, he's going to wash you, right? And he can move.
Yeah.
So the next thing was, all right, we got to take hip cushion away, and then we got to defeat the inside half via target or activity. So either with a shake or we got to stab or get into him, bull slip, so type of deal. So depending on what my preparation was that week, right, depending on who I was going against, if a guy was a rhythm setter, then I might have some predetermined, concepts of how I wanted to beat him, like chop flip or something like that, or you can easily set the guy up. But for the most part, we were doing what we call read on the run, right? So I'm trying to take away that hip cushion, right? I'm trying to win capture that inside number via target or activity, and then based on where he's at on my set line, is how I'm going to approach it. So if he's over the top of my set line based around roughly my third step, I had to be engaged. So we'd always said you got to be in the fight within 3.
Yep.
So if you're drifting up top and you're 5, 6, 7 steps, you're already gone, right?
Yep.
And so we always were trying to cut, that angle with how it is. And even when you're tilted, half the time you're getting off vertical because you don't want to end up underneath,
you're naturally,
right away.
You're naturally.
Yeah. And so, but biggest thing was just trying to close that hip cushion, right? And then obviously, whatever you're studying was, through that week is knowing I'd always have a game plan of how I was going to beat somebody. But at the end of the day, I tell people all the time, you can't have a predetermined move. You got to have a great move and a counter move. So you got to have your move and a counter move. All the other stuff is nonsense. So I consider myself a leverage technique guy, right? Yes. So like you said, I'm gonna stab arm and my bull slip type stuff. That all came off that same long arm progression. Then my changeup kind of I can chop flip you. We're gonna hand fight, right? Mm-hmm. And then top into the rush is massive. So we used to work top in all the time because I'd probably argue that 75 to 80% of all sacks are lost in 2. You're either lost on your get off or you're lost at the top end.
Yeah.
Right. And then how fast can you close when you defeat your guy to the quarterback?
Yes.
So many guys win and coast.
Yeah.
Got to have another gear. And so that's why we worked a ton of top end, and a lot of tackles get lazy at the top end,
Yes.
as you know. And so that's kind of where the sweet spot is. And so we would do a lot of top end progression, just, whether it was coming, flipping your hips, coming back downhill.
Yeah.
Understanding quarterback's launch point was massive, right? So this was all kind of going, obviously this was in your week's preparation and going through it. But once my hand hit the dirt, I'm gathering information through the whole game too. If all of a sudden I've seen you jump out 3 or 4 times on me, I'm going to give you that same exact look, and I'm coming underneath right off the bat, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If I'm putting you on your back in the run game, I'm just going to put a hand in the throat and choke you out and take you to the quarterback with me. So game plans can change based on what happens. You guys get hurt, but yeah, for the most part, my whole concept was, obviously studied hard, had a big game plan, knowing what I wanted to do. But once my hand was in the dirt, it would get off, close that hip cushion, and then we'll make sure we're capturing that inside number. Via target or activity. So that was kind of always those were the main staples of really trying. And anytime I went through a drought, or anytime I feel like I wasn't, something was wrong, I would always go back to my basic fundamentals. One leg get offs, right? How much ground can I take? One leg get offs, just really getting those hips to fire, because if I can over exaggerate, one leg get offs in practice, getting 2 or 3 yards on my first step, in a game time, that's going to be about 1.5.
Yeah.
And, a tackle sits back roughly about a yard off the ball. So if I can gain that yard back, and now we're even by my first or second step, he's got no chance. So yes, that's how I always break it down to back to those fundamentals, and then just, making sure pushing vertical, trying to turn by 5, because if you're aiming to turn the corner by 5, you're going to drift to 7 to 8.
Yes.
But if you're aiming to turn to 7, you're going to drift to 9 or 10.
Yes.
And so understanding, my process was understanding those margins of error, right? You got to understand those margins of error so you don't get outside of them. That's why I love pass rushing, man. It's a science. It's a violent, beautiful science. It's like a dance. And I think, one thing I learned early, and I had great coaches, was that pass rushing is violent. And if you're there trying to avoid and do all these other crazy things, like, that's why our number one goal was get off the ball, eat that space, and then let's go to fighting.
There's a guy now that reminds me of you. Any guess?
I get Maxx Crosby. I get a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm a massive fan of Maxx. I also think Maxx. I don't think Maxx has hit his potential yet either. I don't. When I watch him, there's so much. I think he's got another level he could go, just because of how nonstop he is, right?
Yes.
And we are nonstop. He loves his 2-hand swipe.
Yes.
Right. And I would get him into more long arms and more manipulating elbows and trapping arms and all sorts of fun stuff. But yeah, Maxx is fun to watch. And he's doing great out there. I think he's got a whole nother ceiling. I really do. I think he's that special. And the guys like Myles Garrett is probably one of them. Right now, he's that old school player. He's like a Julius Peppers type of dude. I love the fact that he lines up on the right side and he says, like, let's go get it. Yeah. I mean, he could probably play 3 technique and be awesome too. So those guys, there's a couple. There's some guys that I really like how they play ball. One thing I love about Maxx too, he's just not. I know he gets a lot of credit, like we all did, for you get at the quarterback, you get sacks.
Run game.
Oh yeah, and that's what I'm saying. He's making impacts on the entire game itself.
Yeah.
I think that's what gets lost these days. So many guys want to go out and sack the quarterback. You forget the reason I played D-line is so I had first crack at every play.
Yeah.
Right. So I love how Maxx influences the game altogether. You have to account for him. He's killer in the run game. I mean, he's that guy right there. There's that, we talked about that thin line. You see him all the time. He'll knife under, shoulder, half back turn.
Then you got to make it.
He picks something and he makes a tackle in the A gap.
Yeah.
And like, there you go.
Yeah.
Not always pretty, but the dude saw something. He's obviously an intelligent player.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, Maxx gets a lot of comparison. And again, I think it's a lot of it is it's that nonstop relentless motor. And I like when I listen to him speak. He's got the mind, right?
He does.
He's got that mind of just like, he's type A. He wants to go out and he wants to be the best. And I respect that about guys like that.
Well, they're having right now, him and Vaughn and Cam Jordan I went out there this year. They got this SAC summit in Vegas.
I've been invited twice and I haven't been able to make it.
Go to
So
the
I'm like,
next one, dude. It's a lot of fun, man. It's just like, it's like 30 dudes just talking shop, and the young guys are really receptive to us older guys, you know, weighing in and having conversations. We watch film, we walk through things, and you get to see Von Miller and Maxx Crosby and Cam Jordan do the bags, which is a lot of fun. And I mean, it's cool seeing these guys get together in this generation, because I know back in the day, like when we played,
never happened.
It wasn't that way.
No, and I, you know, we studied each other. Right? I was watching film of DeMarcus Ware, Jason Taylor, you know, guys like that, guys that I was similar with. And trying to watch that. You know, I watched a lot of Derek Thomas, Leslie O'Neal film when I first got to Kansas City. DT taught me about getting off the ball. Right? Like I was like, hey, how is this guy so fast off the ball?
Yeah.
Well, he never watched the ball. He watched the quarterback's hands. So 90% of all quarterbacks will drop their hand right before they ask for the ball. Yep. So once I learned that, I was like, I was gone. And I think Peyton was the only one that would be like, huh, you know, drop his hand on two.
They're going away from the under center stuff where, like, back in the day again, but like under center, like, used to get a lot of that hand movement, a lot of that bailing out.
So as soon as that hand dropped, be gone.
Yeah.
They always have it right when I'm in Tahoe. My time in Tahoe has been, because my kids, as they get older, their sports get more and more time consuming. So they always, when I'm in Tahoe, and I'm like, oh, that's a little flight. I'll jump over from Reno to Vegas, but then I'm like, oh, I got to drive an hour down the mountain. I'm like, it's a 3-day deal.
Yeah, exactly, dude.
It's pure.
No, I know. Once you're there, you're there.
It is pure laziness. I'm like, I would rather be wake surfing for 4 days. I don't have it in me. I do need to make it out there though for that one time and get back to those guys, because they're doing a great job.
Vegas. I don't really like Vegas at this age, but I'll go for that. So also another thing, you talk about get off, man. Like, you played in two of the loudest buildings in the NFL, which I know was not for nothing. I mean, describe how much of a help that is to play at Arrowhead or in Minneapolis. I went to a game there at the old stadium when my dad was doing his show when I was growing up, and when they blew that Viking horn, man, it was hurt.
Yeah, the Metrodome was insane. Probably the loudest game ever was that Dallas. I think it was 2009. Our playoff game against Dallas. I mean, you could feel the field shaking. I mean, you could feel the noise off the. That was nuts. But that's crucial, man. It helps because, you know, as you know, the offense knows the count and where the ball is going. So we're 100% reactionary. So when you can level that playing field, and you can take that one of those markers away, now we're only down one thing, that really helps. And again, and then one of the other tricks is, especially in those environments, you got to watch the play clock.
So
for me, I'm always watching the play clock. That play clock's under 5. I mean, I'm going off first sound, right? It gets down to 3. We're going. And and especially if I can see it out of my stance, as soon as it hits 0, I'm going as well.
Yes, dude. Hell yeah. So, of course, you got all the damn tricks. This confirms everything I was watching.
Hey, listen, when you're struggling on the athleticism part, you got to know all the tricks.
Hell, you got the tricks, brother. So on that D line in Minnesota, you had the Williams brothers. You had at one point Everson Griffin. You had B. Rob, who I love.
Yep.
He's probably fishing somewhere right now.
Down in Houston somewhere.
Yeah. What was it like playing next to two really good interior guys? Because I always say, people ask me like, hey, what was it like rushing across from Robert Quinn? I was like, it was great, but I actually preferred having a 3 technique next to me.
Yep. So it was actually tough for me to learn. Like Kevin and I, it took us a few games to understand where we had to be at, right? Because here I am coming from Kansas City where I had carte blanche, right? I'm doing whatever. Kevin's always going to the 3 technique side. So when there was times we're on the same time where I'm trying to make an inside move, he's got his guy beat, and it's like, we're running to it. But then I'm like, Kev, you're going to have to go left because otherwise they're going to slide to us. So next thing you know, we're getting full slide to us every single time. And I'm like, I remember going in, I'm like, we can't do this. Like, you have to be on the left, I have to be on the right. So it doesn't matter where they're calling strength. Yeah. When it's passed, you're on the left, I'm on the right, And then, then for him and I, it was just having that same mentality, see color, replace color, right? hey, we are on the same side and you beat your guy vertical quick, I'm just going to come underneath you. And if I come underneath, just wrap me, you know?
Yeah.
So understanding where we're going to go, understanding, you know, I would tell the guys all the time, I'm like, listen, I am going inside. If there is an opportunity for me, I'm taking the shortest distance to the quarterback. So if there's an opportunity for me to go inside, trust me, I'm taking it. Stay out of my way.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually I'm more of the weird guy. I hate Greene. I absolutely despise Greene, where you got 2-3 techniques, because all that does is widen the pocket, right? And so from a DN standpoint, we got a width and a depth issue, right? And so all that does is push, because now the center's not occupied, right? So that center's going to scan, that guard can push. So I actually love rushing with Pat Williams at the nose. Like, give me a nose tackle. I tell Pat, you get 3 yards deep, I'll get you 5 sacks.
Yep.
100%. And so, you know, having that inside push, because I'm like, you know, if that guard's going to come off and chip me in the ribs, then I need a nose tackle that can get there and create havoc, right? Versus if you're in Greene and you got 2 3s and that center can scan now and they can just push the pocket, you know, wide, you know, and even the whole counter back to the A gap is so dumb, because all you're doing is getting someone to go lateral, right? And as you know, we don't want to ever go lateral, so like, just line up in the A gap and go vertical. Make the guard respect you. And if he doesn't, you got one-on-one with the center, the worst pass blocker, and, you know, go get a sack. So that was the big challenge, though, is understanding how we work together. But then once we got that, like you said, it was great. I mean, I can remember I think 2008, my first year there. He jumped out. He had like 5 or 6 sacks in like the first couple 3-4 weeks, and I'm like, this dude is going to destroy me on my own team. And I'm just trying to claw back and not get beaten sacks by a D tackle, you know. And it was impressive watching him play. But you know, you knew it, and it gave you more freedom. Like when you know he was on that side, all right, left side's locked down. You know, and then, you know, obviously guys like B-Rob and Ev were probably more pissed off because, you know, coming around the corner, they're like, all right, I got to deal with Jared. I got to deal with Kevin.
Yes, dude. Like when I played with Quinny, like I'd have a great rush and I'd be like, here it comes. And he'd already be there. You know, so you end up racing your own guys. And then the other thing is, like, when you're on a really good defensive line, the ball is going to come out quicker if they can control it, because they're game planning for your group. So, and we
always said batted balls were like sacks, right? It's a no game. So for me, my process is if I bat 10 balls, it might as well be another 10 sacks.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I would always, I don't know how you were, but I would always get on our left end, right? You know, and granted, Ray, you got to remember when I first got there, Ray Edwards was our so-called weakest link, and he had 8.5 sacks.
He's a damn good player, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic player, right? Yeah. I mean, if he would, he probably would have had an even greater career if he wouldn't have gone to Atlanta. If he would have stayed with us in Minnesota.
Yeah.
But I mean, when your so-called weakest link is 8.5 sacks and 50 tackles, I mean that's some incredible like D line. That's hard to break through. So guys like B-Rob came in, you know, they're chasing 10, they want 10 like this. I used to jump on them like, stop going inside. Like, you have Kevin's got the two-way go.
It's
you
his
have to
real
hold
estate.
contained, because if I miss one more sack because you're not there,
yeah. Oh yeah.
You want the right side?
Yeah.
Earn it, you know. So that was always our philosophy. I tell the guys all the time, I said, you get 3 weeks a year to take my job. Mm-hmm. And when you don't bite the hand that feeds you. Know your role. Stay over there. You'll get 5 to 7, 8 sacks.
Know your damn role. That's good shit, dude. That's good shit. Was it in Minnesota? Wasn't that in Minnesota you ran Dan Orlovsky out of the end zone?
Yeah. So I tell people all the time, I was like, I smoked the tight end. I was there bad for leaving it backside on the tight end.
Yeah, bad idea.
But I was laughing because I knew this. I think Kevin ended up with like 4 sacks that game. He had 3 or 4 that game. And I think I ended up with 2. But I'm like, that was that year where I'm like, dude, this dude comes out the gate. He's got 5 sacks after like 3 weeks. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just trying to claw back. Just trying to claw back in. I don't even know what year it was, but all I know is Kevin, I believe, had 4 sacks that game. And I was just trying to catch up with. I was just trying to keep pace. Yeah. And that's why I was laughing, because I knew how pissed he was going to be, because I basically got a freebie out of it, and ended up, you know, kudos to Orlovsky for riding that all the way to ESPN fame. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah, dude. And now he's grinding tape.
He's got the picture. He's got the picture wherever it goes. I love it.
That's awesome. And also, you mentioned that like when you're in a slump, and a slump for you is different than a slump for me back in the day. But a slump for you had to be like, man, I haven't had a sack in like 2 games. But like sometimes you just need the gimme. It is almost like I always say this, like being a pass rusher is the closest thing to being like a baseball hitter.
Yep.
As any position in football, because everything comes down to that one number, and you could be rushing your ass off and it just doesn't go right, and it just compounds in your head.
Yep. And that's why I'd always bring it back to basics. One-legged get-offs, running lines, right? Run 5 yards, turn the corner, five and bend, five and bend. Get back to running hoops, big steps. Go back to the basics. But you're right, and because when you start pressing, you're not getting them, and they come in bunches. I always tell everybody the hardest sacks to get are the first 5.
Yep.
Once I got to 5, it was downhill. It was downhill the rest of the year, right?
Yeah.
And then once you get to 10, I mean, you're playing with house money.
Bro.
So you're relaxed, and next thing you know, you're at 12, you're at 15, you're at 14. And so my in my own mind, my rush was how fast can I get to 5?
Yeah.
And you said getting that first one out of the way. Sometimes that first one, it was just it gets because you press for it. You press. So I would always try to get back. I always had great coaches, to help keep that, third eye on what was going wrong. But anytime I felt like, man, all right, I didn't get one, or like I said, 1 game, maybe 2 games, I would right back to basics, right back to fundamentals, just running lines, making sure you're closing air states. Because you start looking at it, next thing you know, you realize your hips are drifting, right?
Yeah.
You're pressing too far up the field. It's like, what, just get back to creating contact and go fight. But that was, I always thought 5, once you get to 5, the other one's the 10, because like you said, they come in bunches. They do.
Yeah.
There's and then what sucks is you'll get the ones that you have no business getting.
Exactly.
And you will smoke a guy clean, and you get an attaboy on film on Monday. If there's no stat,
which drives you crazy, because the people that it sounds like some fan shit, but the D-line coaches sometimes they coach off result way too much.
100%. I'll never forget. It was, I can't remember what year it was, but they came out. Clay Matthews, he was having a down year in one of his last years in Green Bay. I think he had like 3 or 4 sacks or something like that at the time. But there was a stat where it was like, he's got the highest pressure hit sack ratio in the NFL, and I was like, where was this 7 years ago? I would have loved. Hold up, we're getting credit for quarterback hits and pressures now.
Yeah.
Because I only got credit for getting the quarterback on the ground.
Yeah. Well, I do think now in today's game, it's good for people to understand, like, I wish they kept them for y'all, because, like, now you'll hear even mainstream broadcasters reference the amount of pressure that somebody's getting. So it gives people a window into, hey, maybe this guy's a real disruptor. He might not.
Because it directly affects the game. It 100% directly affects the game. And what happens is, I think when you don't give guys the credit, again, which sounds stupid that people would need the credit for this, because in the building you should know.
Yeah, in the building.
But if you don't give guys the credit for the disruption, you force them in being singular minded, which is bad for the game.
It is.
Right? So now their only goal is to get sacks.
Yeah.
When the reality is there's a progression to rushing the passer, right? You got it. We'd say you had to earn the right to rush the passer through stopping the run. Mm-hmm. So you got to be strong in your run game. You got to have your progression. You got to go through. You got to know your play action conversions, all that. So what happens is you dilute the game when guys are so singular focused on the number. So the fact that you're getting credit for pressures, you're getting credit for disruptions, you're getting credit for QB hits, you're getting credit for certain things like that, and it's becoming more, you're like, oh, okay, this dude's actually having a bigger impact on the game than maybe the numbers say. And I think then you calm guys down, and now guys want to become better players, because you realize you can have an impact. I look at the guys too. I mean, from the D-line standpoint, guys that can eat double teams, right? Guys that are holding the point, guys that are setting edges, like those are things that have massive impact. You'll never be a stat about it, but they have massive impact on the game and massive impact on the success of that defense. And so, I wish they would point out more of those factors and educate people on the game, and sometimes, like you said, in their own building to get that. I mean, Sean McDermott was huge at that. I remember my last year in Carolina, I was over there, And, I had a decent run, had 2 or 3 in consecutive games. And then I'm like, man, I was just my back. I'd blow my back out again.
Remember you had a back
Like
thing,
my
yeah.
first week there, I blew my L5 out again. I was like, crap. So going through that, but I told Sean, I was like, man, I just feel like I'm a half step short right now, right? I don't have that extra dump. And he was like, so he puts on film. And he was like, Jared, I have no one in the room doing this right now. And he was showing me my run game. He was showing me holding the edge, right? You're setting me shut the edge. And he was like, I care more about that than I do you getting 138, 139, 140. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
He was
Yeah.
like, our defense is predicated on everybody doing their job. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's your job. So it was one of those cool moments where you're like, okay. And that's why I think he's a great coach, because he understood, like, I had gotten in that mindset where, like, man, they brought me here. I got to sack the quarterback, got to sack the quarterback, got to sack the
Yeah.
quarterback. And he was like, I need you to keep doing this. And I was like, all right,
Well,
I
that's
can
a
say
hard
that just
thing.
for you all day, coach.
That's probably a hard thing at the end of your career when, like it'd be a lot to live up to the guy in your prime, right? Like, and age happens to everybody. And,
Oh, yeah.
when you're older, I remember a D-line coach told me, like, when I was with Philly, he was like, I don't need you to be 2010 Chris Long. Like, I need you to be what's the best thing for this team right now, which is setting
Yeah.
edges and disrupting and that sort of thing. And it was like a weight came off my shoulders. You know what I mean? And sometimes you can put
Yeah.
so much on yourself and press. So
Well, yeah, and I went to a different standpoint because, like, I had never rotated before, right? And so we were rotating. I was,
Yeah.
everybody's getting like 30, 40 snap, and I'm like, that's not how I play.
Right.
So it was one of those things where you're like, man, we're having such success. And that was the great thing, and that's why I love this game. It's humbling. I tell you, the most individual success I ever had was the worst year we had, 3-13.
Mm-hmm.
The least individual success I ever had with 2 sacks, I played in the Super Bowl.
That's
I
right.
said, the Lord is funny, man, and this game will humble you because
That's
it
right.
reminds you what it was. And I had so much fun playing for the Panthers my final year, and that team was amazing. And it was about winning football games. That's all football's about, right? It's about winning, but when you get the business side involved, everybody's minds get clouded sometimes.
When you were in Carolina, I hate to bring up tough losses, but like you were close twice. You had the NFC Championship game, which I remember watching on vacation and pulling for y'all. And my future coach, Greg Williams, had a bounty out on your damn quarterback. I don't know if you could tell during the game.
Hey, I tell people, just throw the flag then. After
Yeah,
2
throw
or
the
3
flag,
personal
yeah.
fouls, it goes away.
But which one
Bounties
which one was tougher? Like, I know it's hard to compare, but
Oh man, that's actually I've thought about that because 2009 was we were in our prime. If we win that game, we go to the Super Bowl. No doubt we win the Super Bowl. That
yeah,
team goes down as arguably one of the best teams in NFL history. I personally believe so. Like, that team had, just with Brett at the helm, that team was killing it. But then my very last game was Super Bowl. We held Peyton to 186 total yards, and we lost that game.
yeah.
And so to sit there knowing I was that close to a championship ring, and knowing it was my last game, going into that game knowing it was my last game, that's probably the tougher one, because in '09 I just assumed I'm going back, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna rebuild. We're gonna get Brett back. We're going back. And I didn't go back till 16. That's 15, 16 season, and so being right there, being on the cusp, knowing how good that Panthers team was, and to see it just come up short, and you're just like, you're like doing everything you possibly can, and you're like watching literally the clock tick down till your career's over. That was pretty tough, but so I probably have to say that last one was the hardest one to eat. Although you don't have to go to training camp the next year, so it goes away pretty quickly.
Right, exactly. I can only imagine. Yeah, it's nice this time of year to be where we are. But yeah, Jared, I appreciate you coming on, man. Like I said, one of my favorite players of all time, and there were so many weeks where I'd be prepping for an opponent and just marveling at your whole group, but especially you, man. And so, Hall of Fame, well deserved, and I bet that was a lot of fun. So congratulations.
It was. I appreciate it a lot, and like I said, you had a great career too, and we got to play a lot of the same people, so I got to watch a lot of film on you as well, and love the success you're having now. Love seeing guys doing great. So I appreciate you having me on, and great chat.